Yonkel.
Oh my gosh, what up? I'm not even...
That's my nickname for my little sister, Yonkel. I want to read you a passage.
Okay.
Are you
no question
ready?
today?
No,
just
no
passage?
Okay. Passage. We're going to get into some deep stuff today.
Oh my God.
We should open up with this passage.
Okay.
This is by Melody Beattie.
I've read this book, guys.
We've both read this book. Thank God for that. I think it's been our salvation, but we'll get into
For
that.
sure.
Codependents were a necessary nuisance. They were hostile, controlling, manipulative, indirect, guilt-producing, difficult to communicate with, generally disagreeable, sometimes downright hateful, and a hindrance to my compulsion to get high. They hollered at me, hid my pills, made nasty faces at me, poured my alcohol down the sink, tried to keep me from getting more drugs, wanted to know what I was doing to them, and asked what was wrong with me. But they were always there, ready to rescue me from my self-created disasters. The codependents in my life didn't understand me, and the misunderstanding was mutual. I didn't understand me, and I didn't understand them. How are you feeling right now? Are you ready to get into this?
Let's just get into it now. Let's get into it. Just...
What emotions are going through your body right now? I need to know. Before we get started. I need the temperature.
Oh my God. I don't even know. I don't know. My body went warm. Let's just keep it there. The temperature's very warm. It's rising.
It's rising.
Oh my Lord.
Woo, let's get into this then. Woo. All right.
I got that dish. Got that. I got that dish. Dish. I got that dish. I got that dish. That dish.
Hey y'all, it's Onika.
And it's your girl B.
And you are dishing with Dainty Dish. How you doing today, B?
You know, scratching and surviving.
Good times.
Not the best times, but good times.
I know it's
How about you?
I feel like I'm scratching and surviving these days.
Do you?
I feel like
You've joined my boat.
I joined your boat. I'm
It's a very crowded boat,
your boat.
but
Yeah, it's just a lot of changes that this is the thing about like when you have changes in your life and you have a podcast and you want to share things, you know, I'm going to share this one thing. I'm moving out the ghetto.
oh,
Moving out the ghetto.
She's moving.
Moving on up. Remix. To the east side. A deluxe apartment in the sky.
It's about a couple levels up. It's not too high, but nah.
But you know, at the end of the day, I'm leaving on a jet plane, and I will never be back again.
Oh my gosh!
I just want to say to my apartment, thank you for protecting me from the outside world for the last 5 years.
Thank you for your concrete walls and
Thank you for your concrete walls that I couldn't put pictures up on. Thank you for the yellow paint that I had up a couple years ago, and I changed it to gray, which suited my mood at the time. I'm not going to miss the bed bugs, the mice, and the cockroaches.
the vermin.
The vermin, I will not miss them, and I will not be taking anything with me, basically. Burn. That's all I have to say about this space. I'm so glad.
Oh my gosh!
To be gone.
Like
But thank you for all you did do for me.
the salt and hostility.
I am grateful, but I'm grateful to be,
Like I ain't gotta go nowhere special, but I gotta get the fuck up out of here.
the roof is on fire, and literally, there's a fire in the dumpster. Two of the dumpsters on fire. Word, motherfucker. Get out of here. You don't gotta go home, but you gotta get the hell up out of here. And I'm getting.
Oh my gosh!
That's the one piece of news I can share that's been going on, but I wanted to I wanted to piggyback this episode off of the boundaries episode because that's a big thing with codependency. But before we get into all of that,
that was a double entendre, you know.
I know, but even before we get into all of that, I just want to let you guys know Ellie is in the house, of course, doing his thing, his producer thing, and TT is in the house, Honey T.
Hey, y'all, hey!
We're going to have a bloopers reel soon. We've got enough, because we do the pre-record, and some stuff you will never know about.
If you watch my Instagram and my Snap. Spicy! You guys are going to be super disappointed when she slides across the room in some socks. That's all that is going to happen. The plastic, the rubber the rubber Birkins?
Yeah, rubber Birkins. And my socks, my Canadian socks.
Oh my gosh.
No real effort at all.
I'm rolling.
And I'm on film. I don't care. I got the knee long, slick hair style going on because I permed my hair myself the other night.
Get it.
I got in my own hair just there's COVID, you know, gotta do what I gotta do. So. But I want to let you know, the whole team is in the house. We are making a move, but I'll let you know about that later. You'll see the space. You'll see the new space. So, lots of things going on. But with that said, let us get into the
newsflash. All right. Did you like that? It was a pop. I thought, some people do, hey, your girl is here. I'm here with the news. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm not about to roll my tongue because I might swallow it. So, 100%. That was my own little pop there. Thank you. I try my best. So, with today's newsflash, we're gonna get into about a couple of stories. We're gonna get deep into this now that you've opened up the can of worms that we cannot, the Pandora's box. We can now not close. Yes, it cannot be unclosed. So, in this article, see, I did it again. I do like that. Okay, so today's article comes from mindbodygreen.com, and it's an article on codependency and interdependency. So the article is titled Codependency versus Interdependency and the Difference That It Can Make or Break Your Relationship. So I'm just going to take a little excerpt from this article because there's one key part that I think everyone should know is the difference between codependency and interdependency. Oh, okay. So I figured that's what we're going to do with this article. So, girl, you so the difference between codependency and interdependency. So the clinical definition for codependency can vary, but it's generally seen as an excessive emotional or physiological reliance on someone else. So researchers have pinpointed 4 elements that primarily earmark codependency. So look out for these 4 key elements. Okay. That researchers have taken the time that you guys don't have to do a study to tell you.
Or you can see it here.
All right. So the 4 key signs. So external focusing. When they say that, they mean when the person draws opinions, expectations, attitudes, and behaviors from situations outside of themselves. So how are we gonna break this one down for external focusing? Do you wanna? So I'll repeat it again. So external focusing is when the person draws opinions, expectations, attitudes, and behaviors from situations outside of themselves. So
I would say, what's it called?
External focusing. So I want to be like it's like
when you care about what the other party thinks about you. Mm-hmm. Every situation you find yourself in, either in a relationship or a marriage, or maybe it's a relationship with a parent.
A never-ending circle, basically.
It's like a cycle where you're constantly making movements where you're wondering what the other party is thinking, and it's based on the other party's movements. And the big thing about codependency, as we read in the Melanie Beattie quote, is there is always some kind of an addiction or mental illness component, or some type of underlying issue within a family or within a relationship that causes you to feel that you rely on that other person, right? So you're tiptoeing around. Let's say the person has drug addiction.
Mm-hmm.
You're tiptoeing around and wondering what are they going to do the next time they get high? How should you react? How should you feel?
Should I give them money?
Should I give them money?
Mm-hmm.
Should I support this? Should I enable them? Should I support them? Should I kick them out this time? Like,
Mm-hmm.
all your decisions are based on what that other party is doing, so external factors.
Okay. So I'll mark that off on my list. So let's see if I get through all 4 of these to know that I am codependent. Onika already said that our family is. So, so the next key point they said that to look for is self-sacrifice. So when people overlook personal intrinsic, thank you, and intrinsic needs in order to focus externally on the needs of others.
Okay, you know what that.
I know what that means.
So let's say
I do it. Did you see my face? I looked at
you're like I do it.
everyone watching this video.
Mm-hmm. So
God damn.
let's say you have a spouse or a relative or a friend that has an addiction issue, or even, of course, a mental,
Or even a child with a behavioral issue.
Child with a behavioral issue.
Mm-hmm.
Like you basically, I lost my thought.
Oh, sorry. Do you want me to read it over again? So when people overlook personal and there we go.
Okay, yeah. So let's say you have to take the day off of work to take care of them because of whatever issue they have.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have to sacrifice something of yourself, whether it's money, finances, your emotional state. You have to put that
against your like past what you have to offer.
Yeah, like you have to put that all aside for the sake of that other person, right? So that's what I think they mean by, like, and it's intrinsic. It's basically not taking care of yourself in lieu of taking care of someone else.
Okay, so what mothers do every day. Okay,
Yes,
cool.
basically.
So 2 for 2. 2 for 2. 2 for 2. We're gonna talk about that in another article too. So 2 for 2. So the third thing they say to look out for is emotional suppression. Jesus, Lord of His mercy. Am I just reading about my life today? Is that what you decided to do? So, emotional suppression, referred to as an avoidance of feelings and living in a state of constraint with limited self-awareness of one's own emotional needs.
When I'm in a situation where it's a codependent situation, I find that I can't cry. Like, no matter how hard I try in a situation, whatever the situation might be, I don't let people see me get emotional because it feels like I'm burdening them, and whatever. And
we share that.
It is about them. It's not about me, and it gets to the point where I even shake, and that because we grew up in the same house. So you've seen me when I'm highly emotional. I'm dealing with the codependency of whatever it is in the moment.
I don't want to blame anybody, but obviously it's a family thing. Because
here's the thing, like when you come from, and I'm not saying it's complete. All families are dysfunctional. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, every family has their own mess and their own
issue, their own mess. We're all dysfunctional people in general. So I just want to put that.
It might not be you, your mother, your brother, your sister, but it might be your auntie, your uncle, your second, twice, third removed. Like it's somebody.
Stepchild, someone. So we grew up in a household, and again, I don't want to get too much. Like I'm trying to. It's not my story to tell. It's not your story to tell. We can only share our experiences with our family members. But I'm not going to get too specific. But there, on top of addiction issues in our family, there are mental health issues in our family. So it's not just my nuclear family that's codependent. It's my entire family on one specific side that is codependent. When I was struggling with my mental health, and I still struggle, but they're more loose with me now. They more allow me my space to exist. But when I was struggling in the beginning, 10 years ago, my pain was their pain.
Yeah.
My hurt was their hurt. My struggle was their struggle.
As everything is in our family.
You swore to God they'd been strapped in the hospital with me, locked up in isolation, injected with medication. Like, you swear they had gone through all of that with me. Because they were so deeply, affected by my situation, because we were so codependent. My pain was their pain. But it made it challenging for me. That's why I ran away. That's why, talking about this apartment that I criticized earlier, but it became my safe haven and my salvation from the codependency of my family living in the Durham region. Because they loved me so much, it was suffocating. And it's hard, like the codependent, there's the enabler. This always is giving me challenges defining the two, but there's the enabler and then there's the codependent. So I would have been the codependent, they would have been the enablers. So I was going through my stuff, what I was going through, and they were suffocating me in that, like, in those moments. And I felt like, you know what, this codependency has got to stop. Like, I gotta make a move. So I ran. I ran until they understood I was an adult and I can make my own decisions in my mental health and in anything else that was going on with me. You know, I ran. But
because a lot of people like to.
Years, I couldn't run. You couldn't run. We couldn't run. When we're teenagers, we're in our early 20s.
Girl, I just got back my freedom. I just got back my little bit of freedom. Free at last. Free at last. I'm free at last.
Like, yeah.
With the encouragement of, you know, and the wisdom of our parents, of course. But yes,
yeah,
like,
I'm not knocking anybody in my family or anything like that. I just feel like I come from a very tight family. People say things like, you come from a close family. You have to dig deeper into that. Like, you can't. Like, the way our family is close.
Like we're super, like, you know, like, because you know when people be like, oh, like, you know when people be like, oh, like, our family's, like, really tight-knit, like, we call each other every day, like, that's great, but that's not close enough. Like, our auntie could come down the street, bust open our door at any point in time, that's how close, like, be on the phone and something's happening, and they get the whole broadcast announcement as it's happening. Like, it's a different type of closeness, and that's because of how they were raised too.
We lived in a 3-village shack in Guyana. We were raised as a tribe, so we have a tribal mentality. But in that tribal mentality, there's a lot of codependency. Between me and mom, between aunts, cousins, etc., because, like I said, when we're struggling, they're struggling, and if they're not struggling, if they're not even struggling with it, they're talking about it. And I'm guilty. I know my mouth is loose. I can't keep it secret. But I learned my lesson with Beattie.
Thank you, Jesus. I never thought.
The other day about
never thought I'd hear the day.
But you know, it's just one of those things. I feel like when you have those like close relationships, you have to set, like, going back to our boundaries conversations, set boundaries, or codependency is what's going to be the result.
So, the last and final thing they say to look out for if you are codependent is interpersonal conflict and control. So, when people engage in relationships that foster sacrificial behaviors and lack of emotional expressivity. Do you want me to read that one again?
Yeah.
Okay. So interpersonal conflict and control is when people engage in relationships that foster self-sacrificial behaviors and lack of emotional expressivity. Thank you.
You're welcome.
A lot of I's and B's and E's, you know. Just gonna be honest.
What can I say about that one? The self-sacrificing part, it's very common with the enabler in the codependent relationship, where they always feel like they're giving of themselves and they're suppressing their own emotions for the sake of their partner, their loved one. You know, they're
another person's well-being, basically.
Yeah, it's another person's well-being is above their own, and that's the thread between all of those four those four bullet points that you just made. The thread is that you're sacrificing yourself for someone else.
Yeah.
And someone else's happiness. You're putting your happiness aside. And I think when it comes to codependency, especially after reading, I'm just going to go back to this for a second. The codependents in my life don't understand me, and the misunderstanding is mutual. I didn't understand me, and I didn't understand them. That's one thing you have to realize. That codependent person is going through whatever they're going through, whether it's a mental health issue or an addiction issue, and they don't understand themselves. But here's a person who, as you're struggling to figure out who you are and figure out what you're all about, here's a person enabling you to still stay stuck in what
stay stuck in your mess. Yeah.
Stay stuck in your mess. So
or even just show you that it's okay to be in your mess. So even if you pull out and you get back into your mess, like, it's like, oh, well, they'll just help me to get out of that again. I'll just have to start from, scratch. But go ahead.
I have a good example for you.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to you today. Hey, girl. Megatron. Optimus Prime. That's what we call each other. So we were talking about trauma bonding.
Mm-hmm. Right? Oh, which is... I wasn't gonna read. I came across the article, but I wasn't gonna read it. But we could read it after this if you want. A little spat. Mm-hmm.
So trauma bonding. There are certain people you bond with. You have these trauma bonding is very codependent.
Mm-hmm.
When I heard this whole concept, which I never heard of before you today.
I actually know about this, but go.
I felt it sounded very codependent, but there's a way to be able to bond. Trauma bond where you have an example of a person who's trauma bonding with you who's not elevating you. Mm-hmm. You're just wallowing in your own self-pity. Mm-hmm. And you're encouraged, like you said, you're encouraging people to sit in their shit. Yeah. Okay with where they're at, what they're doing. So you're enabling their bad behavior. They're enabling you and you're enabling them, so it's a codependent cycle. Mm-hmm. Right? But there's another kind of trauma bonding, which I feel Ye and I have done personally, where when we get together, we may talk about what's going on in our lives, but we don't wallow in it. Mm-hmm. We come up with solutions. We talk about the future. We talk about the potential of the future and the things that we're capable of doing, and the things and we encourage each other and we motivate each other. That is not that would be I'd probably be an interdependent.
Yeah, which we're gonna get into the definite. Yeah, we're gonna get into the definitions. So, in this article, they go on to say that codependent couples, or even just, relationships between people in general, seek to validate their sense of self-worth and value through each other, using their partners as a crutch or for any of their own, undeveloped parts of themselves. This is problematic because devotion to a relationship shouldn't outweigh someone's individual or psychological needs. If this dynamic continues and perpetuates, these interlinking factors paint a picture of a toxic coupling marked with patterns like people-pleasing, projection, self-criticism, low self-esteem, controlling behaviors, dysfunctional communication, anxiety, and high reactivity. So they go on to say, on the other hand, interdependency is characterized by two autonomous individuals who can care and nurture the relationship without sacrificing or compromising their own sense of self. Thank you. There's a huge emphasis on what the other person can do or complete for their partner because they are already working on themselves.
Yeah. So some friendships are interdependent and some are codependent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've been in both, so.
I have too. It's hard friendships that are codependent are really hard to pinpoint and to tackle once you pinpoint those relationships. I'm gonna leave that as that. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that as that. So those are the definitions for codependency and interdependency. So that's a good stepping stone for where we're gonna start this conversation off. So the next one we're gonna go to, the next article I have for us today, is about me, parents. So all about me. It's all about parents. So from healthline.com, they have an article that says 8 signs that you might be a codependent parent and how to heal. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So we are familiar, as we just talked about, codependency, with the idea of it from the world of alcohol and chemical misuse. In fact, where the term codependency was born. My gosh. Whew, the words fumbling out of my mouth. Today, though the term has been broadened to include relationships, it sometimes connects with other kinds of codependency. So, what is a codependent parent? A codependent parent is one who has an unhealthy attachment to their child and tries to exert excess control over their child's life because of that attachment. I'm not a codependent parent. I have a very healthy attachment to my children. That's not the part. That's not the that's not the part. That's not the part that I'm talking about. So, so yeah. Codependency can be found in the full range of parental relationships. A codependent father may rely on his daughter, or a son might keep him mentally to keep him mentally stable and emotionally happy. A codependent mother might rely on her son or daughter to take responsibility for her physical well-being. No, not today. You parents, you need to reel it in. You're supposed to be raising children. Children shouldn't be raising you. I'm just saying that. Just a self-thought. While codependent, just a self-thought. While the codependent parents may claim that their close relationships they covet is a sign of well-functioning family, their preoccupation with each other is a sign of dysfunction. It's important to realize that codependency isn't easy to spot. According to a 2014 research article, biological, psychological, and social elements can all contribute to codependency. So, these are the key factors to look out for if you are a codependent parent. Get a pen. Write this down, people. You never know. You might not be a parent now, but you'll be a parent someday. Possibly. So, whether it's your choice, whatever. You're holding on to control. So, in a codependent relationship, we know your sense of self depends on your relationship with another person. So with this instance, it would be a child. So codependent relationships feed on a cycle of neediness. So one person needs the other. Sometimes it's not always that, but it works both ways, and the other person might want to be needed too. So parents who are codependent might try to control their child's life. This control can show up in different ways. So they list over involvement, which is pretty self-explanatory. Inappropriate every month. I try to keep afloat. I'm not a fly on the wall, but I'm a cloud in the sky. I'm not a helicopter mom, but I'm a cloud. I pass by every so often. You never know where I'm coming from. So inappropriate caretaking, I believe, is also self-explanatory, but just for people that don't know what inappropriate caretaking is, codependent parents will do more for their child than age appropriate. So, you shouldn't be massaging your child's skin at 6-7 years old. They should know how to lotion their own skin. A baby, when a person's asking you, how old's your child? Oh, 48 months, like grown-ups, and you're still breastfeeding, and give that child a bottle of milk. Give him some 2% milk in a carton.
Child will not be sleeping in the bed with you when it's 10 to 11.
Yeah, boundaries. Last week's episode. Boundaries, people. So, inappropriate caretaking. So, incorrect shouldering of responsibility. So, codependent parents often feel responsible for their child's feelings and take the blame for their child's mood swings. I do this on a regular basis. My child will get upset and I think, what did I do? What did I do today? What did I do today? Or what did someone else do? And why is she, what is going on? And mind you, she's all of 9 years old, about to be 10. So, it happens. Yeah. So you sacrifice other relationships. So this happens a lot with parents in general. I could speak of personal experiences. I have friends that I thought were going to be my friends to the end of time, and then I had a baby, and then they dropped off the face of the earth. So sacrifices of other relationships. It happens. It might not be your spouse. It could be your friends too. It could be your family even. So instead of investing time and energy into building a meaningful relationships with people, a codependent parent might choose to focus solely on their child. As time goes on, you may find that the relationship with other people is stagnant. You may also find that you're isolating yourself from your family members and friends, and you're prepared to cancel coffee dates with your best friend because your child insists that they need you to take them shopping for soccer shoes. It's a really weird.
Like,
Like, Mom, why do you have to go see Auntie today? Like, I just want to go get some soccer shoes. Like, season starts in 3 months. I think it's more important than your sanity and coffee.
I don't know, because honestly, I think all parents, when it comes to their children, are codependent.
Oh, no.
I feel like the good ones are. Like, I feel like the helicopter moms of the world are keeping their kids out of jail, and they're keeping them off the board. Like, I feel like
My children will be in neither.
Like, I feel like sometimes I'm not saying codependency is a good thing. I'm just saying when I think about my codependent family situation with my mom, like, she got me out of some messes that, like, eventually she stopped. Eventually she's like, you know what? I want you to end up in a shelter. Like, you've done
enough
things. It's time for you to go to a shelter. That's when she stopped enabling. But prior to that, they protected us from a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It could have been a good thing, but for someone like me who has no real common sense, sometimes I have book smarts, but I don't have common sense in my own. Common sense is not always that.
Jesus, you're working overtime today?
It's like,
Jesus, you have this from. Oh my gosh.
I do, like, it's hard. It's not, like,
you working overtime, God? It's all right. It's all
no,
right.
I'm just saying, like, knowing what my mom protected me from, like, I can't blame her for being a codependent helicopter mom, because she'll pretend not to be, and Mom, you know you do this. You'll pretend like, oh, I don't care. I'm just like, whatever. But
We're the same. We're the same.
She cares. She cares deeply, and I can't blame her or fault her for that, because I think a big part of, like, I don't think when it comes to codependency, and it's hard when it's kids, though.
100%.
Kids grow up, and I think it's the...
I'm still at that age where they're still young, so give me like 9 more years and ask me where I'm at, you know.
The codependent has to step away from the enabler, which is what I've always done. Like, when I realized, oh, I'm in a codependent situation, I just step away from my enabler, and that's what... I don't think it's always the enablers... Sometimes the enabler might not be strong enough to say, listen, I'm in a codependent relationship, I'm enabling this other party, and I think that, like, I need to step away from that.
Yeah, because an enabler, at the end of the day, an enabler is someone who believes that the other party needs them.
They feed
So
off
they feed off of it, but it's like you so like wholeheartedly believe that
Nightingale syndrome.
I don't want to say it, but like I know our young listeners will know, but like save a hoe syndrome, like, you know, like that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't mean to say it like that, but like that's the saying, and you know it's, you know,
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Captain say, yeah.
You know what I'm saying, so.
I'm just saying, like, that's what it is. I got a couple more. We'll just read through the list. I'm not even going to describe them. Like, we're just let you know, come up with your own thought process. Use common sense, guys. We're all yes, exactly. So, I'm going to just move through the list. So, you manipulate your child's emotions. You engage in dogmatic behavior. I'm going to just describe that one just because dogmatic behavior sounds really...
just means, like, constantly doing the same thing over and
Okay,
over and
thank
over
you.
and over and over again.
All right, perfect. You claim victimhood. You have a hard time enforcing boundaries. Number 7, your self-esteem is tied to your child. Number 8, your first reaction is immediate denial when it comes to the codependency. And that's it. Those are the bullet points. I thought there was a little bit more, but that's it. So they just go on to say, just to finish the article, how to stop codependency from happening with your children. So key points to practice, which I will be taking this into consideration because I kind of focus on my kids more than I focus on myself. I don't want to toot my own horn. I don't want to sound like, I don't want to sound like I'm mom of the year or anything, but like I always make sure my kids are taken care of before myself. Yeah, which is always I've always, that's what I've seen mothers do, so I assume that's how it's supposed to be.
I feel like that article is not fair because as I said, I think parents, when their children are younger, they need to be codependent.
But it's just when they get older,
they start struggling at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and they're still
there's a limit.
over them.
There's a limit to where you have
there's a
to
limit
draw
where
that
you
line.
draw the line,
Yeah.
let them be who they're going to be, let them grow how they're going to grow. But when you're dealing with small children, I feel like there's a level of codependency that needs to be there because they're codependent on, they're dependent on you too.
Mm-hmm.
They're your dependent, you know. So like they're not having an independent, like the other article would say, independent versus codependent.
Mm-hmm.
They're dependent on you.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily dependent on them, and they don't know that that's what's going on in your head. Only you know. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, again, like, for that relationship's sake, I would say it's the enabler's responsibility to know when to
Step
draw a
back.
line and
Mm-hmm.
step back, because the child doesn't know that difference. But in other types of relationships, I'm not sure.
I'm gonna say you're right, but also that we don't know what age this child is specifically in this article.
Exactly.
We're going off of, you know, like I have
Your
a 2-year-old.
daughter's
Yeah,
age.
my daughter's ages are 2 and
What I
9.
went through with my
What?
parents
Yeah,
as a
but like
kid.
some people be enabling them children until they're like 34. Like, you know, like 34, not taking responsibility, like things like that. Like, but you were in and out. That's different. Like, you were in and out. I'm talking about people that, like, they left high school, they don't have a job, they're just in their parents' house, like they just live off they play video games. Like, you know, that's really a codependent parent situation. Like, that's like Step Brothers. Remember with like Will Ferrell? Like that. Those, yeah. You see how I got, yeah, exactly. So, just key notes though for any of the parents that we have listening. Just remember to practice self-care. You know, step back and allow your child to become independent, because they have to learn independence from somewhere. So, like, yeah, you know, they're dependent unto a point until you teach them to be independent, right? So step back and just listen actively to your children and give them your full attention, because they're growing, they're learning. You know, just like how we grew, we learned. We didn't obtain knowledge just right in the noggin.
That noise again.
Just right in the noggin. So that's that article. So about parental. Next up. Do you want to jump into relationships? Like,
Yeah, might as well. Haven't talked about rule of law in a while.
that's your reference. That's your reference point,
Listen, I learned
eh?
a lot from that 4-month relationship. Okay, like I learned a lot.
Like, you
A
know,
lot about codependency.
that's all. That's what it's about. Learning. Okay?
I just have one real, just true point to make about that. Go into your article, but I have one big point.
So this article comes from MadameNoire.com. It is a blog, and their article.
Madame Noir?
Is it Madame Noire? Yeah, Noire. I thought I'd just get a little bougie with it, you know, like I thought Noire. Madame Noire. The thing is, I already, you know, I read this article, all right? Like, I read this article and I said it properly the first time. Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, keep going.
So, why are all the good men in relationships with broken women? As I sip my tea. That was a perfect click right there for this. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
So, this author, Samantha Hawkins, posted this blog, and she talks about her first boyfriend, Zach. So, I'm just gonna skim through her endeavor. It's very long, but there's a point to the madness.
Like there's a method.
Hear me out, people. Are you ready? I'm not putting this cup down because this is some hot tea. So, my girl's boyfriend Zach was a product of a bad relationship dating all the way back to his high school years. He told me how he barely survived 2 failed engagements and a serious long distance relationship with a woman who had one and a half times his age when he met the brisk summer day. Oh my gosh, I forgot how the beginning of this article starts. Sorry guys, just give me a second. Let me get to the good stuff. Let me get to the tea. He often thought the worst of women. He was quick to take offense to the little things, no matter how many times I tried to assure him that I meant no harm to him. I inherited a man who had built up a giant wall of callous around his heart, and it was all because of the broken, unfaithful woman that had come before me. Everywhere I looked, I would see an extraordinarily unnerving trend of this. Decent, loving, and good men are being extended to their limits by women too selfish, too disloyal, and too saddled with emotional baggage to appreciate who's standing in their corner. What's incredible is that these men will fervently stick to these women with their whole heart, truly believing that they will suddenly get better or grow out of it. Although broken women broken women simply wake up one day and decide to be cured from their brokenness. They will date them, they will marry them, they will even have kids with them. Meanwhile, we good women are sitting back watching what could have been and who should have been with us going down the drain. So, the article just goes on to say, hurt people will hurt people. Closest to them especially. Unfortunately, sometimes the object of their abuse is the person that they need and rely on the most. I have a coworker who shares a 14-year-old daughter with his ex-wife, and when he met her, she was confused, promiscuous, and depressed. She was a confused, promiscuous, and depressed young adult with daddy issues. He thought that she was just difficult, but in reality, he was all aboard the crazy girlfriend train. She was a psycho and a maniac. When she wasn't screwing everything...
Not our words. Not our
this
words.
is an article I'm reading, people.
We'll be doing another episode on language soon.
Yeah. So, she was accusing him... Sorry.
Psycho.
Crazy girl train. Yeah. When she wasn't screwing everything and anything that walked with something between its legs, she was accusing him of cheating on her. He married her, believed that he could change her, and as though his love... Oh my gosh, sorry. Believing that he could change her, and as though his love would be enough to tame her ways. They eventually had their daughter, and while they worked to hold their lives together the best that they could manage, she continued to live this sexually liberated bachelorette lifestyle that she did before they met. Ultimately, she tired of domestic life and requested a divorce from him. Flash forward now a decade, and the same coworker is prepared to marry his second wife. And while she isn't as careless as his ex, she too has her share of emotional problems, and she craves constant attention and struggles with anxiety and has lingering trust issues after a long string of failed relationships. She also has anger issues. So 10 years between the two most serious relationships in this person's life, and the odds that both women are what are the odds that both women could be unstable?
Honestly, okay, let me break this.
The article's not done. I just want to ask you this. Well, what are the odds?
The odds are high because he's an enabler. This character is an enabler in a codependent situation. Both of these people do they have any addiction, or is it just mental health issues?
I'm pretty just mental health. Just mental health.
So they have mental health issues,
and it's a good thing you said that, though.
Resolved and undealt with.
Mm-hmm.
And he's in these relationships with these women, and he's not learning anything from what he has done.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't one of those
This goes both ways, by the way.
Yeah,
even though this is an article about a female talking about her ex, this goes both ways for males and females that this could happen. So,
but it's interesting to see it from a male perspective, because oftentimes when you think of codependency and codependence, you think of men.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to touch upon something before I lose the point.
Mm-hmm.
This book that we referenced at the beginning, Codependent No More, How to Stop Controlling Others and Start Caring for Yourself by Melody Beattie. We'll put the name in the link, or the link in the whatever.
By in the description.
Thank you. Not techie.
Mm-hmm.
When I first was introduced to this book many, many years ago, it was because I went to Al-Anon. I was in the rooms, the anonymous rooms, and I was searching for something. Because at the time, I was involved in a different, life, and I was searching for something in those rooms. When I realized, after hearing people's stories and people sharing and trying to get a sponsor and trying to do the 12 steps, I wasn't an addict. Did I self-medicate, in my life? Of course I have, but I wasn't an addict. I was codependent.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed a room like the rooms of Al-Anon for me to realize I have family members that have mental health issues, addiction issues, etc., and I myself have these issues, and most of the sprinklings in that book, which you think would be about one parent, ended up being about a completely different parent, and my codependency with that parent, so, and that, just going back to saying, like, when you think about codependence, you think about people like me, you think about moms, you think about girlfriends, you don't think about what men necessarily go through and what they're going through in their codependent relationship, because we just assume men are stronger, or they're the alphas, or they're not going to be going through the things that women
which is not true.
Which is not true.
They are humans. They feel.
Humans. Yeah, they
Al could tell us. I'll sit here like, tell them.
So it's interesting to see the perspective of a male, where this male goes through a course of like
rings of fire,
like seriously bad relationships, and why are the good men taken by bad women? It's not that the women are bad. It's that the women have problems, whether it's daddy issues, addiction issues, mental
emotional
issues.
baggage from whatever sorts.
Exactly. They have their variety of problems, and they're not bad women. They're just in a codependent situations with these women. It's not about being good or being bad. Nobody's all the way good or all the way bad. But, when there's an imbalance in your relationship, and there's a codependent and there's an enabler, it's like, what are you learning from each other? What are you teaching each other?
So just to go back to the article, like you were saying too before. So this author goes on to say, could I say author?
Yeah.
Author. Goes on to say that the answer to the mystery of why men stay in these terrible relationships with terrible women is that codependency in men often manifests in the form of them being consistently attracted to women who need a savior. Captain Saver. Codependency is an addiction. So just as you were saying, like, there might be an addiction issue, you right on the nail. Codependency is an addiction, so it isn't.
It's good to be needed. I'll go. You finish what you're saying, then I'll say.
No, I was just going to say, codependent men will pass by the most stable, independent, and mentally sound women to intentionally seek out romantic partners with those who need to be rescued. They will make costly, unhealthy sacrifices at the expense of their jobs, their family, and their own emotional stability just to be the woman's all in all.
Like, personally, every relationship I have ever been in, which is not that many, you'd be surprised, it's not that many, but every one of them have been codependent, where I've been the enabler. I'm the one with the mental health issue, but I'm usually the enabler, and they're the codependent. And it's because I have this, like, because of the things they talked about, biology, psychology, environment, I have this need to be needed in my relationships. And when I feel like I need to be needed in my relationships, I find I go the extra mile for the people that I'm with.
Rightfully so, though.
Like, I'll go the extra mile, but it gets beyond that. Like, perfect example, I'm going to give my 4-month hypomanic relationship last summer 2020. Rule of law. Like, this guy literally, like, just infiltrated into my life, and it was so easy to do that because I was lonely. My self-esteem was low. I was lonely. I wasn't feeling good about myself. I wasn't taking care of myself. And all of a sudden, here was someone I could take care of and avoid my own problems. So that's a big thing, I think, too, with enablers. I think whatever they're going through, whether it's related to the codependent or it's related to themselves, a part of the enabling is not addressing your own issues and not addressing what you're going through.
And it takes a lot out of people to address their own issues,
Exactly. So you'd rather take care of someone else and do for someone else and feel like you're saving and rescuing someone else. First relationship with Dell, like, I thought I could save him from the ghetto, and I thought I could elevate his status. It's a relationship with the Green Hornet, we'll call him. So that relationship, I thought I could save him from himself, and elevate his status and help him get his kid back and do the most, and I went to court and I did this and I did that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was doing the most. And you know what it is? This is when you know you're an enabler. This is one thing, if you haven't heard anything else in this conversation that we've been having in the last little while, this is one thing you need to know. When you feel uncomfortable in yourself, when your gut, like deep down in your gut, like when the person walks in the room and there's a shiver up your spine, or deep down in your gut, you know when you give them that $1,000 for a basketball net or something stupid, you know you're doing the wrong thing. Deep down in your gut, you feel this like almost like a nauseous feeling. It's almost like a nausea because you know what you're doing is going against your intrinsic values.
Mm-hmm.
That's what an intrinsic value.
Okay.
Like you're going against your own intrinsic values by sacrificing of yourself for that other person when that other person doesn't necessarily need it or even want it.
Mm-hmm.
They are used to it. They take it for granted. But if you walked away, it's like with anything else, like if someone says to you, and this is what my sponsor said to me, it's not in your hula hoop.
Mm-hmm.
It is not in your hula hoop. It's not in your business, right?
It's not in your bubble.
It's not in your bubble. Whatever's outside of your hula hoop, it's not even affecting your life, and you think you're affecting that person's life, and you're not even affecting their life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the codependent's not affected by you one way or the other. Because they're using you, and they're stuck in their own situation, and all you're doing is helping them not solve their problems.
So as you were just saying too, and just to wrap up the article, they said they fear abandonment and loneliness far more than they fear being stuck in an unfruitful, emotional, starved relationship. Codependent habits are reinforced by people-pleasing behaviors, which are perpetuated by one's inability to cut ties or cope with losing control of something or someone, even if it's detrimental to their well-being. It's easy to forget that codependency is entirely gender neutral, although we recognize that the signs of it all the time in women are in physical. Although we recognize the signs of it all the time in women in physically or emotional imbalanced relationships, from women in our family to our best friends to the women next door staring at the staring at a character in the Lifetime original TV movie. I think this is ridiculous. I don't watch Lifetime. I've watched Lifetime, but I don't watch it on a regular day. We all know women who suppress their feelings and sacrifice their personal needs for others to enable immature, irresponsible, mentally ill, or underachieving male partners. We easily see it in women who constantly gravitate to bad boys and problematic men and otherwise societal failures whom everyone else has responsibility to give up on. But this concept of trying to repair broken things that may not want to be fixed is certainly not foreign to many men either. Broken women thrive on men with weak boundaries and fragile confidence. Codependent men consequently thrive on clingy, needy, and insecure women because their fundamentally broken worldview that validates their masculinity. They need to be needed in their mind, and having a woman who desperately and irrationally has the need for them translates them to being wanted. So, just to touch on what you were saying too, to close out the article. And the addiction, the addiction that you were looking for is not substance that he had. It was an addiction to women he thought he could save. That is considered an addiction when it comes to codependency, apparently.
Who? Rule of law?
No, Zach.
Oh.
We're still talking about the story.
No, Zach. No, that's the thing. Like Captain, you said. It's they talk about daddy issues in that article, but they don't. You got to think about mommy issues too. When it's biopsychosocial with people, it's their environment. So, what did Zach grow up with that caused him to want to be with these quote unquote damaged women? Right. So it's a vicious cycle that I think it takes a lot of strength to break. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of self-awareness. to break. So I don't know. I mean, I try with my codependent tendencies, but I've just learned to accept. I've just learned to accept it for what it is, and like when I find someone's being I don't like people enabling me. It's not that I enjoy that feeling, but like when I find people being codependent or being too enably or anything like that, I kind of generally separate myself because I recognize it after reading the book, after going through the steps, after doing the work to see and recognize that I do have codependent tendencies, and it's just checking that every chance that I get and making sure that I'm aware of it and I'm not just gonna sit in it, right?
So just to close out my news flashes, the last thing that I'm going to read is from psychologytoday.com. So we don't have to go through the whole article because all we need is a snippet because we basically covered everything in this article in regards to what codependency is, what codependency is in relationships, even what causes codependency. So in this article, all we're going to talk about is how do we recover from codependency. And I think that's the whole bind for this that we all need to come up with. So the final message, because you could be codependent and you could be an enabler, but you gotta want better and you gotta want to recover from it. So it is an addiction, guys. Codependency is an addiction.
It's not in the DSM-5 though. I know it.
It's okay. That the DSM-5 is a little biased. Like there's more to life than just 5 things that.
The DSM-5 actually, just so you won't make this mistake, is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders.
I'm just saying there's only 5 disorders.
No, it's the 5th edition of the book. It's the book of all of the disorders.
Okay.
Does not fit the.
Okay.
I know this from
maybe in the 6th edition. Maybe in the 6th edition.
In the next 3 to 4 years, possibly, but it is not currently there, so it's not currently considered a mental disorder or an addiction. But people colloquially, which means in the streets, call it an addiction.
Which means in the streets, like in the streets. Okay, so with that being said, how do we recover from this addiction? From the streets, apparently. So healing from codependency means rebalancing ourselves. Instead of focusing on so much on what others need, we need to consider our own needs and make them a priority. So this doesn't mean that we should never consider other people's needs, because that would be sociopathic. It just means that we need to take care. We need to take care of our own. What? Sorry. This doesn't mean that we should never consider other people's needs or take care of them. It just means that our needs are as important as other people's, and that if you don't take care of yourself, you'll end up depleted, resentful, and unfulfilled. So healing from codependency includes not only knowing what you need, but asking for it. Something that so many, including myself, have a hard time doing. Asking for the things that you need. You never know the outcome of the other person.
I have to move leave. I need a
Okay, pause. You see how she said that so briskly and swiftly? I was the one that got the phone call before that comment about him leaving. Like, this girl was on her Erica Badu, call Tyrone. I don't need you here. This girl went on a whole tirade. She was like, I'm sitting here with my hand under my chin and I'm waiting for him to come home to tell him to leave. Like, you had a whole. Healing from codependency includes not only knowing what you need, but asking for it. And we can't continue to feel and act like victims or martyrs. We must learn to communicate assertively, and stand up for ourselves. Aggressively, too. And set boundaries to protect ourselves from being mistreated and create relationships where we give and receive. Healing from codependency also includes getting to know yourself. So often codependents spend so much time thinking and trying to take care of other people and appease other people that they lose touch with themselves. Whew! The temperature's rising again.
It is. It's rising.
It's rising.
Good point.
As we heal from codependency, we need to treat ourselves with kindness. Codependents tend to be hard on themselves, self-critical, and unforgiving. This is both unwarranted and unhelpful, and instead, We should offer ourselves kindness, acceptance, and support, treating ourselves as we would a dear friend. I was about to say that. I was like, I always hear people be like, oh, when you give out sound advice to your friends about their situation, you never take it in for yourself.
No, you never speak to yourself.
Never speak to yourself with the same way that you speak to your friends, which is so true. So self-compassion is another way to value and care for ourselves, and it has been shown to increase resiliency and motivation and decrease stress. So just know, at the end of the article, they say, you can conquer codependency. It is possible. Recovery is a process, and it can be overwhelming when you think about it and all the changes you want to make. But the good news is that recovery isn't all or nothing. You could benefit from making even a few small changes. Take it slow, and with consistency, practice, support, and learning new skills, you will gradually feel more confident and know you're on the path to recovering from codependency.
Oh, thank you. That was nice.
You're very welcome. And with that, I'm done with the news flashes. I'm done. Mm-hmm.
It was a news flash kind of day, so I felt it. I felt the vibe.
You've been feeling my news flash vibes. I've been picking up what you're putting down.
So I've been writing off hotels for the last couple episodes.
It's okay.
I think I will continue to do so.
I know you were going to. So, yeah.
But I just
Closing thoughts.
Final dish. Final dish. As Jerry Springer, final thought. I just feel like codependency is one of those things you have to really genuinely work at.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work at solving for yourself. If you find yourself actually listening to this episode like, oh shit, I'm in a codependent situation, what do I do about it? Just rewind and listen to it again, and hopefully you'll pick up some really good points, because there was a lot of good points in this one, I think. I think with codependency, and especially with my own, there are people in my life that I do enable, and there are people in my life that enable me, but it's biopsychosocial. It's hard to break that cycle, but if you are interested, there's again, Codependency No More.
Show them the book. Show them the book in the video.
Oh, the video, so you can see it.
I don't know. You might have to go up close and do like a makeup tutorial. I'll do it for you.
Yeah,
I'll do it for our viewers.
Yeah, this is an excellent
tutorial, guys.
Get that light focus, right? It's an excellent resource.
Yeah.
It really helped me a lot deal with my issues and what was going on with me. That was going on with me 10 years ago. But it's an everyday struggle. It's a challenge, especially now that I'm cohabitating with the rents. It's always a challenge, because we're all different personalities. We all have our different issues. We all have our different vices and things going on in our lives. And, it's challenging to, I guess, sometimes deal with those different personalities. But I think with codependency, and especially with codependency and enabling, I think the biggest challenge is recognizing that you have a problem, admitting that you have a problem, just like any other addiction, and then doing something about it. So hopefully what we've shared with you today is giving you some insight on the concept, on the idea, and on the principles of codependency.
Thank you for that.
With that said,
you weren't going to ask me for my final thoughts? Are
My
my final thoughts not important?
That was your final thought.
No, it wasn't my final thought. I was just, you know what? Maybe it was, because now I can't think of a final thought now to say, because you just completely disregarded my final thought, and now I don't know. I don't know what the final thought should be for me. I was going to say that I think when it comes to codependency, like the article said, like, you just really need to know yourself. Like, just know yourself in the regards of how you treat people, how you take care of people. Know if you're being excessive, stepping outside of your boundaries or your hula hoop, like you said earlier. If you know yourself. When I read, first of all, I'm not even gonna lie, I haven't finished the book. I got through the first half of the book, and it was a real emotional roller coaster for me, because, as Onika let you guys know, like, she made notes in the book already for herself, and then just seeing her notes and then reading the book for myself and feeling how I felt and who I have a codependent relationship with and who I enable at the time that I read it, and even still to this, like, I still enable people and I'm still codependent on certain people to this day. But like, just knowing myself and knowing that I am is a huge step.
Yes.
Because you're not naive to it. You're not saying like, oh no, it's just help. You're not ignorant to it. You know, it's not like, oh, you know, I'm just helping someone, or I'm just being helped. You know, no. Like, so knowing yourself, I'd say, as a final thought, is just something you need to be able to do when it comes to codependency. Anything really in life, but like especially codependency, because you won't be able to pinpoint the beginning and the ending of a codependent relationship if you don't know yourself and you don't know what you bring to the table. So
that's a pretty good final thought.
You know that I was a little rocky on it. It's because you cut me off. Like, I was like, codependent. I'm like, you had so many good thoughts too, you know. So
Anyway,
it is your show though.
it is.
So
Yeah.
you know, can't get me mad.
Podcast, but we're both dainties. But I'm the first dainty. I'm the one that came first.
So.
Anyways, if you guys have any thoughts on codependency, or you find like, you know, you had a really like rude awakening today, and you realize, oh my gosh, I'm in a codependent relationship. What do I do? Maybe shoot us an email or hit us up on the
DMs, yeah.
And let us know your stitch.
Like, listen, you can always go to a professional, because we're not certified professionals. But if you want the real, yeah, she's nosy. She's nosy. I'm just a realist, and you know, everybody goes through things, and I might have potentially gone through what you're going through, or might not have, and I could just give you my honest opinion and sound advice. Exactly. So both of us can. She just want to be nosy, but both of us can. So
anyways, be let them know how they can reach us.
So if you want to reach us in general, or even as we said for the codependency episode, and telling us your situation, you can reach us at dysh@daintydysh.com. So that's DYSH@DAINTYDYSH.com. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, and if you're listening to us on any other streaming service, thank you so very much, guys. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you want to get a hold of us all as a collective, you can get a hold of us on Instagram at Dainty Dysh Podcast. So that's DAINTYDYSHPODCAST. And if you want to get a hold of us all individually, my Instagram is that of a bad XO. So that's THATMUVABADXO. And if you want to get a hold of Onika, hers is
Best of Onika. That's BESTOFONIKA.
And if you want to get a hold of L, his is It's Ello.
Yeah, it's .lo.
Yeah.
That's ITS.ELLO.
And
if you want to get a hold of T,
hers is Honey T, and that's HONEEY.TEE. No dot. I'm just always adding these things. Yeah, so no dot. So that is that. And then if you want to get a hold of us on Twitter, because tweet is a Twitter. I won't use tweet as a twat as a tweet. If you want to do that, it's at Onika Dainty on Twitter. And you know, see how she's so yeah. So, and you know, hit me up on the TikTok. I'm gonna get back on it, give you guys some entertainment. I'm funny, I know. Ha 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 ha.
What a week, guys! It's been a crazy one.
It's been worthwhile, hasn't it? Though it's taught us some lessons.
Yeah, it has. All right, well, that has been the dish of the day, and I hope y'all have yourselves a very, very, very happy